2, 1. Stand by.
Are you ready for a change?
I am talking to you.
Then get ready to explore the quantum possibilities. It's time to transform that outdated paradigm into something universal and new. Time to uncover the truth hidden beneath the veil of lies. A time to think outside the box as we link to a higher consciousness. Welcome to the awakening. And now the hosts of Broadcast Team Alpha, Nori Love and Augie Nost.
Hello, radiant rock stars and comet riders. How are you? It's Tuesday night and we are always so happy to be here with you. And I'm just going to invite you to take a deep breath with me. Let's just all take a deep breath. Seriously. You know, and the kind of deep breath, like not the kind of deep breath you take at work, not the kind of deep breath you take, you know, when you got a conversation going with your significant other or your friend, like the kind of breath you take when you're around like-minded people, like that kind of exhale. So I'm also going to invite you, you know, being a nurse and being a law of attraction coach, you know, I kind of mix them, and I'm going to take your emotional vibrational temperature, if you will. And I'm not going to ask for your numbers unless you want to give me your numbers. But the emotional vibrational scale is when you just step back for a minute and take into account everything. Your physicality, what's bothering you, what's not bothering you, your spirituality, your energy. Just take that all into consideration and throw out a number. So 0 would be in the absolute, you know, dregs of negativity, sadness, you know, depression. 10 would be like the happiest you've ever been, feeling amazing on all levels. So I just invite you between the numbers of 0 and 10 to pick a number where you are on the emotional vibrational scale. And I do this with like all of my classes and with all of my webinars every single time, not so much for me, but I am intending that your number will be higher by the end of this show tonight. John said he's an 8. Wow, beautiful, John. Thank you. So we have a really amazing guest tonight, and I'm so excited. I already like kind of felt his energy, and you guys are going to really love him. So I just invite you to come into the spirit of the energy with us. You know, just come into the intention that maybe you'll find out something amazing, right? Maybe you'll have an aha moment during these conversations. Maybe, who knows, maybe you'll find something funny, but hopefully our intention is that you will be feeling increased well-being by the end of this show. So Augie, what can you tell us about our amazing guest?
Oh, yes, a lot actually.
Yay.
We have Sal Rachele with us, and he's an amazing guy. He's a world traveler. He lectures on several continents every year, and he has had some phenomenal life experiences. And because of that, and what he has learned later, he has become a spiritual teacher, a healer, a mystic, a priest, psychic, a channel, an intuitive, and a clairvoyant. And something that I really want him to mention something about, because I don't know really what it is, and that is a timeline healer. He's also an author of 7 or 8 different books, and a musician and recording artist, and the co-founder of Sananda Mystery School. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's some good stuff hidden there. Mm-hmm. I said he's written about 7 or 8 different books, and I'm going to mention a couple or 3 of them, because one of them is The Secret of Unlimited Energy. Mm-hmm. But he has also written The Mystery of Time and The Real History of Earth. Oh, I won't let him leave until he touches on that. Mm-hmm. And then there is one, The Earth awakens to prophecy of 2017 to 2030. And there are several other books. And you can find him, of course, at salrachele.com. And gosh, I got to spell that to you because it's Italian. And that's SalRachele.com. Welcome to the show, Sal.
Welcome, Sal.
Thank you for having me. It's
Absolutely.
a pleasure to be here.
It's such a delight having you. And while we were quickly, right before we came on the air, we're quickly trying to, just throw out last minute thoughts about the things that we want to cover. And the thing that we kind of encapsulated everything in was that we're going to be talking about the spirituality and the energy of what's going on in the world right now and what we can expect in the future. So, Sal, I'm so excited to talk with you about all this.
Well, let's dive right in.
Okay.
And, some of you come from a Christian background and some from a scientific viewpoint, and I'll be covering a little of both of those viewpoints in describing from a higher perspective what's taking place on the earth. And I'm going to start with a word. This is a favorite word of a lot of people, apocalypse. Now, when I say that word, some people think doom and gloom. They think, oh, it's the end of the world. Everything's going to be wiped out in some disaster or something like that. But that is not the meaning of the word. The word apocalypse literally means an age of revelation, a time of revealing all that has been hidden. And that is exactly what this time is that we're in right now. Yes. I like to say it's the revealing of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, excuse me. Absolutely.
And we're going to kind of take a neutral point of view, and we're just going to observe what is coming up to be healed. Because in order to raise our frequency, to raise our vibration to a higher level, we have to heal what's blocking us. That's basic psychology, and it's metaphysics, it's healing. It's basically every personal growth goal or vision is to clear out everything that's in our way of being powerful spiritual beings, because that's the truth of who we are.
Yes.
This time is about revealing all that is within us, the good, meaning the vast creative intelligence that every single human being has, regardless of their circumstances, regardless of how much money they have, how many relationship problems they have. The outer circumstance has nothing to do with our innate intelligence. What the Bible would say, we're created in the image and likeness of God. Well, if that's true, then we are powerful beyond belief. And that is the double entendre, or whatever you call it, powerful beyond belief. Because the beliefs are kind of what keep us from recognizing how powerful we are as spiritual beings. So this is the time we're living in. And it's painful for a lot of people because a lot of us have stuffed down into our subconscious mind all types of fears and ego pursuits, attachment to materiality. And we're not saying it's wrong to have material things, but when your happiness depends on a bigger paycheck or a promotion or a yacht or another car in the garage or whatever, then obviously you are not focused on who you are, which is a powerful spiritual being. You're focused on thinking material things bring happiness. So these are a few of the elements of the apocalypse.
I love it. And in fact, well, I don't want to say in fact, in my world, when we are more focused on the inner part of us, right, the spiritual part of us, it seems to me that when we're focused and thriving on that level, then all of those things that we wanted in the physical either fall away or we get them.
That's true up to a point. I think they become less important unless we need them as tools for our mission and purpose.
Right.
Obviously, if I need to travel, and of course, there's a little asterisk by that because of the recent travel restrictions.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, I can't go from place to place giving my talks, workshops, seminars if I can't even afford to buy my plane ticket. So obviously I need money in order to do that, or at least it's a lot easier with money. Maybe I can do straight barter for a lot of things, but money is a tool. And so we're not saying you should be poor, you know, what do they say? Blessed are the meek. Well, the word meek is probably misunderstood, because it doesn't mean you have to be poor. It doesn't mean you can't afford the basic things in life and therefore you're a spiritual person. Poverty is a virtue and all that. That is a misunderstanding of spiritual energies. So the two extremes, one is the living in poverty, thinking it's a virtue. The other is, well, I'm going to get my 7th yacht now and I'm just going to... So those are the extremes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think meek comes actually out of the Greek translations that mean more like humility.
Yes, like childlike innocence. I don't know, but I want to find out. And that, by the way, is the most important thing in science. A true scientist does not know but wants to find out, and so uses critical thinking and investigates, explores, examines different viewpoints, different perceptions, instead of jumping to conclusions, assuming this or that, or blindly believing what the so-called authorities say, which is a real dangerous thing to do right now.
Absolutely.
That's one of the big lessons in this current time we're living in right now. That's one of the things coming up to be healed, is the belief in authority. The belief that because somebody has a lot of letters after their name, or they're in a high position in government, or some other position of authority, that somehow they know more than you do about your own spiritual process.
Oh, that's so interesting. And so it's so interesting that you're telling me that this is coming up for everybody, or the collective, because it's certainly coming up for me. And it's so interesting, and a little bit funny at times when I see the way that the people who play out these lessons for me, the healing for me, how they show up. Like relationship has always been a big point in my life. And it's so interesting, the new people that are showing up to help me heal, like the relationship authority, the patriarchy kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it's a really powerful time for examining what's been in our subconscious mind for a long time. And sometimes we're happy to have, for example, this quarantine situation. A lot of people had more time on their hands than they were used to having, because they either couldn't go to work, or they didn't have to spend as much time commuting to work because they were working from home. And so it gave a lot of people a chance to go within and really look at themselves. And some people that I've talked to say, this is one of the greatest times in my life. This gave me a chance to slow down and really get to know myself. And then, of course, others were horrified at what they thought was lurking in their subconscious mind. And probably it was a little uncomfortable to get in touch with some of the things. For example, some people are addicted to socializing, going out to restaurants and bars. And when they suddenly don't have that available to them, then they're kind of forced to look at what they were covering up with all that partying and socializing. So it's a great time, a challenging time for people that are very attached to their social networks and so on.
I think that actually we are all growing in both different directions and at different levels. And I think probably half the country or so is waking up to the fact that, wait a minute, there is something I didn't understand. Because now maybe they get to reunite with their family again and maybe make new friends and grow a little bit. With other words, they put one of their feet outside of the box. And in some cases, there's something out there that's grabbing the foot and just pull them out of the box, so they just start discovering a lot more. Because this is I don't know if there's something in the vibration that we are submerged in. Looking at the Schumann resonance, it's kind of look that way because it's bouncing, up to about 100 or more when it used to be about 7.8 here for several thousand years. So there is something happening that is helping us raise our vibration and grow. And what do you think that is?
Well, if you've read any of my earlier books, I go into great detail on what has been termed the ascension of planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And when we say ascension, we literally mean the raising of vibrations, the raising of frequencies. Whether it's the Schumann resonance or whether it's measured some other way, I measure it as what I call composite state of consciousness. And in my books, I detail third, fourth, and fifth level consciousness. What are the characteristics of those levels? Third level is what we call conformity, or what some have termed sheeple, meaning people that just blindly follow the media or the religious authorities or the medical authorities, and they don't really question. And I consider those people to not have free will. They have what's called imprisoned will, because their will is a slave to their own belief systems, programming, and conditioning. Well, I was brought up a Baptist, I'll always be a Baptist, and those Catholics are evil. That narrow-minded type of mindset that I call third density consciousness. It's about survival, it's about procreation, and it's about security and safety. Now, I'm not saying security and safety isn't important, but it is a third density quality. It's a lower dimensional quality. Then you have the fourth density souls, which are the realm of true free will. And true free will is the ability to think for yourself, to make intelligent decisions based on your own insight and awareness rather than blindly believing the so-called authorities. And so this is the true scientist who investigates, explores, and examines reality from many different vantage points in a quest to find out what is actually so about the universe and about our life on Earth. And then you have the fifth density, which is what we call unity or love, which is far different than conformity. People get these two mixed up. They think that conformity means, everybody's going to be the same, which is kind of what that does mean. But they think of unity as everybody's going to be the same. We're going to give up our individuality. We're going to lose our sense of freedom. No, actually, there's more freedom in fifth density consciousness, because this is where you learn that you are intimately connected to everything in the universe. You are one with God. You are one with the Creator. And science is now proving this. There's a scientist by the name of Nassim Haramein who determined that the entire universe exists inside every atom, actually every proton of every atom. So that means there are trillions of originals, not copies, but originals of the universe within each one of us. And what are they saying in the religion? The kingdom of heaven is within. The kingdom of God is within. So they're saying the same thing in completely different words as the scientists are now discovering. We live in a hologram, and the whole is contained within the parts. The whole universe is inside us.
Absolutely. I love that guy, the Harriman. I've been following him for a long time, and he's so sharp.
Absolutely. So this is the realization that we don't have to look to a particular guru, teacher, master, savior in order to give us the truth, and then we blindly follow like obedient little slaves. In fact, all of the great teachers sought to empower their students. Jesus said, "These things shall ye do, and greater things than these." That is a direct encouragement for others to attain the levels of consciousness that Jesus attained.
Right.
Yeah.
And even some people who were very steeped in the church, who are progressing and evolving with everything that's going on and happening really quickly, even they're saying this is the kingdom age. And the people who really, are free to think outside of the box are understanding what that really means on the quantum and the spiritual level, not just religion. So this is a very exciting time.
and a very challenging time.
Absolutely. It's not easy.
Because we're all powerful creators, even those who are thinking negatively and creating negatively, they're powerful too. And there's a lot of people thinking negatively. 3/4 of the planet is in fear right now.
Exactly.
And my guides told me it was going to be this way 15 or 20 years ago. They said only 20 to 25% of humanity is probably going to wake up, and the other 75 to 80% are going to be locked in fear. And things are going to seem to get worse if you're locked in fear, of course, because what does fear manifest? More fear.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things we have to heal in ourselves. Every one of us has to look within and say, what am I afraid of? Where is the fear? And go deep into it, not run away from it, because you're running away from facing your fears. That is the fear. The act of running away from it is the fear. So when you face it directly with full awareness and you breathe, you meditate, and you call on your higher nature to shine its light into the depths of the fear, that's when it starts to move out. That's when you start to transcend it.
Mm-hmm. And if the fear is, a little bit too murky to do a swan dive into, you could kind of go around the back door and ask, well, okay, what do I believe in? Who am I, and what do I really, really believe in? Because when we really start to uncover what we believe in, it may uncover some of the things that we're scared of. And while we're deciding whether it's something that we really believe or it was a belief that was, kind of superimposed on us, then we get to choose if that fear is really valid, or do we really want to continue that fear? Yeah.
Right. And this recent, virus situation, for example, I was looking at the responses and reactions of people, and I was realizing about 20% of the fear is based on actual danger, and about 80% is based on psychological ghosts, that's not based in reality. And so that's a lot of psychological fear that needs to be lifted in order to see clearly what's taking place and to educate ourselves about, what's really going on in the world, because we can't see it clearly if we're coming from fear.
Absolutely.
I kind of prove the old concept that we create our own reality by the way we think and what we do, because if our mind is full of fear, we're going to have a lot of it. Things will show up for us to be afraid of.
Exactly. So let's all, and we have a minute or so before the break here, let's all take some deep breaths and just tune in to that amazing God presence that's within each one of us. Let's just do that for a moment before the break.
Yeah.
Just take some deep breaths. Breathe in the prana, the life force energy that's streaming in 24/7. It's the love channel. It's just like the classical station, the rap station, all the other music stations are streaming in all the time. But if we don't have our mental receiver tuned to those stations, we can't hear them. Well, this is the love station, and it broadcasts 24/7. And let's tune into it now as we breathe, because it's there all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. But we're going to tune to it during the break.
I love that.
Sounds excellent.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
What a great process.
Yeah, let's actually, we got about 30 seconds left now, so maybe we just go to a break, and when we come back, we will talk more with Sal Rachele, and we'll get into a lot of the mysteries of the universe. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch the dial.
And a big shout out to the chat room. I always love watching what you guys are talking about. Big shout out to Tina Marie. Condor 3 is here. David Cook. Daku. Iowa Girl is here. JC. Hello, John. Hello, Karen. Lisa. Marilyn is here. Naj. Hi, Naj. Parked Cake. Rob. Always good to see you. Summer. Sunnyfix. Might not have said that right. Super cute. Undone is here. Yappy is here. Z is here. And Iowa Girl, I think I said that, Karen. I'm going back up the chat. David Cook is here. I think I missed him before. And I don't think I've missed anybody else. If I did, please forgive me. Parked Cake. I love to just say hi to all of you. And I just want to thank you for for the times when you guys use the donation button. It's always the source of great joy for us when Tina emails us and says, hey, you got a donation. And then that donation, we just go ahead and take that off of our monthly payment to run the show. So your generosity helps defray the cost of the show, and we sure do appreciate it. And while I'm doing a little bit of housekeeping, I won't run the vacuum, but I do invite you to join us for our mastermind sessions on Sunday. The mastermind sessions are at 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. on Sunday. If you are interested and want to hear about them, just send us an email to themastermindconnection, all one word, at gmail.com. themastermindconnection@gmail.com. And what we do is join our thought energy. We join our energy and our intention, with passion and all of the good feelings that launch it out into the quantum realm for an agreed upon intention. We've worked on the fires in California. We've worked on the floods. We've worked on the virus. We've worked on a lot of things. We've worked on just the feeling of love being pervasive over the planet, because that will heal so many other things. And that's the 2 o'clock one. Now, the 3 o'clock one is a little bit more finely focused, and we actually do a mastermind. And instead of sending out the intention for the beneficence of the universe, we're actually reaching out to extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial, our star family. We're reaching out to them, and we've actually made contact. So if that's something that interests you, again, please just send us an email saying, I'm interested. Give me some info, or send me the link for Sunday. It's themastermindconnection@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to all this, guys. So Augie and Sal, I'm still breathing.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I do a lot of masterminding myself. We have even some processes in some of the workshops and seminars on masterminding. Mm-hmm. And I know that we talked about timeline healing. We were going to describe what it is just briefly, and also about some of the prophecies, maybe from a more extraterrestrial perspective. Mm-hmm. So being that we have limited time, I'll just do a very brief description of what timeline healing is. And the shortest definition is going back in time and giving your past selves a healing, especially those past versions of yourself that experienced trauma or negative programming. So you're allowed to change your experience of the past, and to some minor degree, you can change the past as long as it doesn't violate the free will of other souls or violate time paradoxes. What is a time paradox? That would be, for an example, it would be the grandfather paradox in physics. What if you went back in time and accidentally killed your grandfather? Well, that would mean that you were never born. But if you were never born, you couldn't have gone back and killed him in the first place. Mm. So that's called the grandfather paradox. And there are ways around the time paradoxes, which we go into in some of the trainings. But it's much more psychological. Yes, there's physics involved. And we do have maybe an hour of physics in one of the trainings, but mostly it's the psychological aspects, because if you can get your past traumatized self to receive God's love, remember God's love station is broadcasting 24/7. If you can attune that part of you that has been hurt or negatively programmed by opening that self up to the God's love radio station, then true healing occurs, because God's love is the healer. Everything that heals as a result of God's love in the form of self-love, in the form of self-forgiveness, letting go of the pain and the suffering that is self-inflicted in many cases. So that's just a little sneak peek at timeline healing. There's deep meditations involved. There's a manifesting process in timeline healing. And there are things very similar to what you described just before I came back on with masterminding, where we do a group meditation once a month where we work on healing some aspect of the planet by going back in time and healing the timelines that gave rise to those manifestations. So,
and you know what? There is actually scientific evidence now that you can go back and alter the past. That the UCLA, they've done some quantum experiments where they actually have changed the past. So you're exactly right. And because you're talking about God's love is not only physical, it is also outside of the physical, where time and space does not exist. So you can reach back into the past and deliver love to yourself.
absolutely.
And then ride the timeline up.
So I know there's a lot of people that want my take on prophecy and extraterrestrials, how they fit into the prophecy. So I'll just take a few minutes to go over my understanding. And even though some of this is in the books, some of it is coming through as we speak, because there are many levels and dimensions of the universe where things are constantly changing and updating. So not everything is set in stone. Certain dimensions of creation are pretty much eternal and unchanging, but other aspects are continuously evolving and changing. So the situation on Earth right now, we have extraterrestrial groups that are working with humanity, that were invited here by humanity in order to help in this difficult time. They are allowed to intervene in situations where humanity would destroy themselves, or whether large numbers of souls would have their free will violated. So there is a group, it is often called Galactic Federation or Galactic Confederation, that is tasked with preventing nuclear war, and they also prevent wide-scale use of certain chemical and electromagnetic weapons. They're also somewhat involved in mitigating the GMO situation so that it doesn't pollute every plant and life form on the Earth. And to some extent also with real deadly viruses, not viruses that are only slightly worse than influenza, like the COVID, for example. But if there are black plagues going around, they're monitoring those kinds of things to make sure that humanity doesn't get completely wiped out. So that is one group that has been working with the Earth for a long time, very actively since the 1940s and 50s, when we started testing and using nuclear weapons. And there's many other groups, the Andromedans and Pleiadians, that have come here, among other groups, to influence our nuclear testing and deployment of weapons. You can find proof of this in the military logbooks, military journals, where the UFOs were hovering over the missile silos, neutralizing the launch codes of the weapons. So this is provable information. Why are they allowed to intervene? Because there's a large number of souls on Earth who want to live in peace. They want to live here in a loving, harmonious lifetime, and it would be a violation of their free will if they were blown up in a nuclear war. So that's an example of one of the groups that is intervening. Another group is called the Arcturians, and they're a very, very peaceful, advanced civilization from the Arcturus star system. And they are here to help prevent massive earthquakes and volcanoes from going off in heavily populated areas. They're working with the grid system and the ley lines of Earth, the electromagnetic fields, vortices of Earth, to prevent major geophysical disasters. And they've been about 98% effective. They're very happy with their effectiveness so far, since they were called to do this. The last major problem was in Indonesia in about 2004, and the problems that have occurred since then have been far less. Now, we say that, and there's the possibility of a major flood problem in China as we speak. They are monitoring that situation to see if they are justified in intervening in that situation, and they may end up intervening if it looks like millions of people could perish from that flood. So those are some of the benevolent groups that are working with the Earth. There are also positive Pleiadians, positive Syrians, and there's the Lyra Vegans. There's about 20 other positive groups that are currently working with the Earth to help prevent major disasters. Now, we have to talk about the negatives because we're not shying away from anything. We're looking directly at everything. The biggest negative extraterrestrial group are what I call the Rigelians from the Rigel star system in Orion. They have a humanoid but green scaly skin. They look sort of like reptilians, and so they're typically called reptilians. There are many different reptilians, not just the Rigelians. There are other star systems that have reptilian life forms that have come to Earth. So when you hear somebody say reptilians, it doesn't necessarily mean they're talking about beings from the Rigel star system. There are also negative Sirians and negative Dracos from the Alpha Draconis star system, and some negative Zeta Reticulans. And these groups all have their own agendas. Sometimes they team up and form alliances with other negative extraterrestrials, and their intention is to enslave humanity. And they are working through the artificial intelligence and through mind control programming, and wanting to turn human beings into machines. They unfortunately have a huge influence over the major media outlets in the world, and there are astral entities that under their control that are astrally possessing a large percentage of the world leaders. Why do they target the world leaders? Because these beings have a lust for power and control. Now, this is false power. This is not true power. The so-called dark cabal, power elite, dark Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, they are not actually powerful. They are only as powerful as people believe they are, because belief is powerful. So if people believe they're in charge and believe that they're being controlled by a dark cabal, then that's the experience they're going to have. But true power has no need to control, manipulate, oppress, or enslave anybody. Because if you have the power of God within you, if you have the kingdom of God within you, why would you need to control or manipulate someone else? Why would you need to oppress or enslave anyone? Why would you need all these militaries and weapons and intelligence agencies? There's an oxymoron. And so yes, there is that group as well, and they are allowed a certain amount of leeway because of the non-interference principle. And when I say non-interference, obviously I mean within a certain limits, because the good guys, if you want to call them that, are allowed to interfere when it comes to nuclear weapons and major geophysical changes. So that's the short version of a long story that's in about 3 different books that I wrote quite a while ago.
Yeah, mention those books, would you?
Yes. Well, the first book, Life on the Cutting Edge, second edition, has kind of an overview of some of those groups. And then in more depth, it would be Earth Changes and Beyond, the second book that I wrote, and then Earth Awakens, Prophecy 2017 to 2030, which is the third book that I wrote. The fourth book, Soul Integration, is more of a personal growth manual that talks about the nature of the soul and how to integrate the various parts of the soul so that we can be powerful manifestors on the earth. And then you already mentioned The Real History of Earth, which again goes into some of what I've just talked about, but in a slightly different way. And then The Mystery of Time, we talk about timelines. The Mandela effect is an interesting one, which is mostly just people with faulty memory, but some of it's real. A small percentage of it is real, which leads me to believe that there have been people who have changed the dominant timeline enough that it's starting to show up in the collective memory. So that's a whole nother topic. I don't want to open a Pandora's box when we only have 10 minutes left, but
yeah, it gets really deep and interesting when you thread on those grounds, because the timelines is very likely that we are actually living in more than one timeline, or maybe many timelines. So we can have time slippage possibly, but we slip into another one where there are slight changes from this one. Do you think?
Yes, in fact, I'm working right now to prevent certain timelines from intersecting with our dominant timeline. There's one that does have a lot of death and destruction in it, even though we're not allowed to blow ourselves up with nuclear weapons. There's a lot of death and destruction in some of the possible timelines. So I'm working to keep those timelines away from the dominant timeline so that they don't intersect with the dominant timeline. And it's very interesting because sometimes I pop into one of those timelines where there's all kinds of death and destruction going on, and then I catch myself before I get too deeply into it, and I put a barrier between that timeline and this one so that they don't overlap. So this is some of the timeline healing work on a little bit more cosmic level. And then the last book is on the secrets of unlimited energy, which is about 0-point energy, which is the future of humanity, which is free, unlimited energy for everyone, which basically makes everything free and unlimited. But unfortunately, our consciousness has not reached a level where we can manifest that on a large scale. And the book goes into great detail on how and why that is and what to do about it. And also goes into immortality. There's no reason these bodies have to grow old and die. Not that you want to stay in a human body forever. No, that would be boring. But as long as you're here on the earth, you might as well have a youthful, healthy body for as long as you choose to be here. And then choose when you want to leave the body.
Yes.
Yeah, that will be a new one when we decide that, well, I've learned everything that I think I can learn and I've done everything that I think I can do. So let me get out of here and then go ahead and make your own decision to leave. That would be wonderful.
So that was an encapsulation of the work that I've been doing around the world over the last few years. And so we have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
How do you work with people, Sal? Can you tell me a little bit about that? I know I see all of the lessons that you can buy for the Sananda Mystery School. That's wonderful, really wonderful. And do you work one-on-one with people?
I do. Well, I have a private practice. It's a combination of psychotherapy and timeline healing and psychic readings and a few other things thrown in. So I have my private practice, and then I have my tours where I do workshops, seminars, and some of them now are virtual tours online due to the travel restrictions. But
that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
With Zoom and Skype, it's really easy to do online meetings now, and still not the same as being there in person, but it's still pretty nice to be able to do that, and so. I'll be doing some events later this summer and into the fall, hopefully in person in Europe, but possibly some of them will be online, depending on whether they're still having quarantines and things like that.
Just a quick one. What do you think our life would look like 5 years from now?
That's a wonderful question. I actually have processes where I use 5 years in the future as part of the processes. So my feeling is that the peak of the instability will be around the year 2025. That's just about the peak of what we call the galactic shift, which is a 150-year period, also called the photon belt by certain people, or the electromagnetic null zone by other people. And it's a region of the universe, or a region of the galaxy that the Earth and the solar system are passing through, which is creating all this speeding up of time and all this major upheaval. And it's going to be peaking in about 2025, and then it's going to start to quiet down after 2025. Also, people are going to be ascending into their crystal light bodies, which is another topic that's mentioned in the Soul Integration book. And this is the actual next phase of humanity's evolution. Some people think the human being is the pinnacle of evolution for humanity, and that's simply not so. This is one phase of our evolution, and there are phases beyond this as we become more celestial beings. So the etheric crystal light body is what we call our level 5 self, and this is what we are entering into over the next 10 to 20 years. We were really optimistic that this was going to happen faster than it's happening. All the prophecies seem to be coming true, just as me and my guides have predicted, but they're happening a little more slowly than we originally predicted. We did say up to about 2020 on some of the things that have just now started to happen in 2020. So we're kind of pushing back some of the prophecies 10 or 15 years at most. But from the higher perspective, 10 or 15 years is the blink of an eye. It's like almost nothing. So it's a very slight delay due to the large amount of negativity on the earth and all those powerful creators creating negatively and slowing down the program for the ascension of the earth.
Yeah. I see we got about 3.5 minutes left now. And what is next for you right now? You got any big projects that you want to talk about?
Well, I just started a YouTube channel, and I'm putting together a 10-part series on self-empowerment, which are free to the public to watch on YouTube. So I'm in the middle of that, and I'm supposed to go to Russia at the end of August and do a bunch of seminars there. And then I'm going to Latvia in October, and then I usually go to Bulgaria toward the end of October every year, and Romania. And so there's a few places that are on my schedule. I kind of plan things about a year in advance, but I don't plan everything a year in advance because I like to have some spontaneity. Yeah. So there may be some additional things that come up that are not in the schedule. And
let people know where they can get a hold of you and email or how they should communicate with you. And
it's www.salrachele.com. It's actually pronounced Rachele, but everybody says Rachele, but it's an Italian name, Rachele. And you can also reach me on email at srachele66@gmail.com. And I have to let you know that I do get behind on my email frequently, even with my office manager. I get so many emails that sometimes I don't answer you immediately. So I apologize in advance if you contact me and it takes a while for me to get back to you.
Okay. All right. Now I got one really big question for you. If you could speak to the whole world and the world was listening, what would you tell them?
2 words. Wake up.
That's a first. That's lovely.
Or we could have 1 word, love.
Yeah, that covers it all, doesn't it?
But you really, there's so many forms of love and people are not aware of the agape love or the divine love or unconditional love, which are the higher level forms of it. So to just say love might not work for everybody, but wake up. Everybody kind of has an idea what that means. And I think most people know that I'm not talking about an alarm clock beside the bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we are down to the end of the show. So thank you very much, Sal, for being with us. And I would love to have you back.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Broadcast Team Alpha.
Broadcast Team Alpha.
Hosted by Nori Love and Augie Nost. Every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The balance of power is shifting to a new paradigm. Will you be ready? For more information on Broadcast Team Alpha, as well as the hosts, Nori Love and Augie Nost, please visit their website at broadcastteamalpha.com. Until next week, remember to keep those minds open while always exploring the endless quantum possibilities.
Broadcast Team Alpha. Over and out.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.